Tom had been a cemetery caretaker for 30 years, but he had never seen a dog as loyal as Charlie. How did this Border Collie know which days he would be restless at David's grave? And why did he only wait during those specific hours? When the secret from Charlie's past came to light, Tom's view of the cemetery would change forever. 3 years ago, on an autumn day, Tom Harrison first met Charlie. It was the day of David Whitmore's funeral. David, a 52-year-old electrician, had lost his life in a workplace accident. During the funeral ceremony, Tom noticed a Border Collie waiting at the cemetery entrance. The dog was black and white, medium-sized, and quite well-groomed. But there was deep sadness in his eyes. As the funeral procession passed, the dog quietly followed behind. When soil was thrown at David's grave, Charlie, the name Tom would give him, sat right next to the grave, never moving. "Come on, beautiful dog, go now," Tom had said that day. But Charlie didn't leave. Even when evening came, he was still there. The next morning, Tom expected to find the cemetery empty as usual. But Charlie was still there, lying with his head resting on his front paws, staring at the fresh mound of earth. "You're still here, boy." Tom approached slowly. Charlie looked up, his brown eyes filled with hope and confusion. He wagged his tail weakly but didn't move from his spot. Tom knelt down and extended his hand. Charlie sniffed cautiously, then allowed Tom to pet his head. The dog's fur was damp from morning dew, and Tom could feel his ribs. He hadn't eaten in over 24 hours. During the first week, Tom thought Charlie belonged to David's family. Maybe the dog had picked up his owner's scent and was searching for him. But when David's sister Linda came to the cemetery, she said she didn't recognize Charlie. David didn't have a dog, Linda had said. He lived in an apartment, couldn't keep pets. This surprised Tom. Then who was this dog? And why wouldn't he leave David's grave? Tom called local animal shelters, checked missing dog reports, posted Charlie's photo on social media. Nothing. No one was looking for a black and white Border Collie. In those early days, Charlie would simply sit and wait at the graveside. Tom started bringing him food regularly. The dog seemed grateful, coming to Tom and wagging his tail. But once the meal was finished, he immediately returned to David's grave. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the local veterinarian, examined the dog. "He appears healthy," she said. "About 5 to 6 years old. Well-trained and social. But his identity is unclear. No microchip either. Could he be traumatized?" Tom asked. "Possibly. Dogs can experience grief, especially if they've lost someone important. But it's unusual for a dog to attach to someone who wasn't their owner. This dog has extraordinary loyalty." As weeks passed, Tom noticed Charlie had developed a strange routine. The dog arrived at the cemetery every morning at exactly 7:30 a.m. He left at 6 p.m., and no one knew where he spent nights. But strangest of all, Charlie behaved differently on certain days. Thursdays, Charlie would be restless. He would pace around the grave, look toward the cemetery gate, prick up his ears. As if he was expecting someone. Sundays were completely opposite. He would be so calm that Tom sometimes checked if the dog was sleeping. Charlie would lean against the headstone those days, remaining motionless for hours. Tom began taking notes on these behaviors. After 3 months, he realized something significant. The days Charlie was restless coincided with the same day as David's death. Thursdays. And Sundays? Tom discovered David's birthday had fallen on a Sunday. Charlie had developed an almost supernatural sense of time. Every morning at 7:30 sharp, regardless of weather, Charlie appeared at the cemetery gates. During lunch breaks, Charlie walked to the small pond, drank water, sometimes chased squirrels, but never for more than 15 minutes. Most remarkably, during thunderstorms, Charlie would lie closer to David's headstone, as if protecting it. Tom had seen him there during terrible weather, soaked but refusing to leave his post. Months passed, and Charlie became Greenwood Cemetery's unofficial mascot. Visitors loved him and took photos. But Tom noticed Charlie didn't react the same way to all visitors. When elderly people came, Charlie remained calm. When children arrived, he wanted to play. But when young men came, especially those around David's age, Charlie's behavior changed. The dog would show more interest, approach them, sniff them. As if he was searching for David's scent. One day, David's former work colleagues visited. Mike, Steve, and Carlos from Richardson Electric Company. Charlie became excited when he saw them, showing particular interest in Mike. "Strange," Mike said, crouching to pet Charlie. "I didn't know David had a dog. But he seems to know me really well." "Did David ever talk about dogs?" Tom asked. "No, but once he said, 'I wish I had a dog. That way, when I come home, there would be someone waiting for me.'" Mike paused thoughtfully. "He seemed lonely. Nice guy, hard worker, but kept to himself." Steve nodded. "David was always talking about getting a place with a yard someday. He'd see dogs on the street and stop to pet them." Carlos added, "Last few months before the accident, he seemed different. Happier. Like he had plans. He was saving money for something." That evening, Tom thought long and hard. Did Charlie really know David? Tom decided to research David's life thoroughly. He learned about David's final days from Linda and visited Richardson Electric. Company owner Mr. Richardson told him, David was a hard worker. He'd been doing overtime for 6 months. He was trying to save money. What for? To buy a house. "A house with a yard where I can keep a dog," he always said. Tom felt his heart ache. David had been planning to become a dog owner just before his death. Then Tom investigated David's apartment building. His elderly neighbor, Mrs. Foster, said something important. David took the same route to work every day. Down Elm Street. There was a dog there, always sitting by the door, waiting for David. David would feed him, pet him. Elm Street. Tom immediately went there. At house number 42, there was an elderly woman tending her garden. "Oh, are you looking for Charlie?" the woman said. "I'm Martha Collins. Charlie was my dog, formerly." Tom was shocked. "Formerly?" Martha smiled sadly. 3 years ago, after my husband Frank died, Charlie went into depression. He wouldn't eat anything, just waited by the door. The vet called it owner transition trauma. Charlie was waiting for Frank to return. What about David? Oh, David was an angel. When he learned about Charlie's condition, he started taking care of him. Every day going to and from work, he would stop by, feed Charlie, play with him, take him for walks. Charlie came alive again with David. Tom's eyes filled with tears. Did David want to adopt Charlie? Yes. In recent weeks, he kept talking about buying a house with a yard. "I'm going to take Charlie with me," he would say. "He's lonely, and I'm lonely. We need each other." Martha showed Tom a small shelter in her backyard. "David helped me build this. He said Charlie needed a proper place to sleep until he could take him to his new home." The night before the accident, David came by as usual. He was so excited. He had put a down payment on a small house. "Next week, Mrs. Collins," he said. "Next week Charlie comes home with me." But next week never came. Tom now understood everything. Charlie truly loved David. David was Charlie's second great loss, first Frank, then David. When the dog learned of David's death, he had come to the cemetery to look for him. And decided to stay. The reason for his restlessness on Thursdays was clear: David had died on that day. Charlie's instinct became more active on those days, renewing hope that David would come. His calmness on Sundays was because it was David's birthday. As if Charlie felt David's spirit was with him on those days. Tom told Martha about Charlie's situation. Martha cried. After Charlie lost David too, he completely shut down, Martha said. I'm old, I can't give him the attention he needs. David had given him hope. After David died, Charlie disappeared. I looked everywhere but couldn't find him. Charlie didn't abandon you, Tom said. He's just waiting for David. But Martha revealed something else that made Charlie's story even more poignant. David had been making plans. Not just for the house. He had been trying to reconnect with his estranged son. Tom's jaw dropped. His son, Jonathan. They had a terrible fight 15 years ago. Jonathan left home and never came back. David never stopped hoping he'd return. He would say, when Jonathan comes home, we'll be a real family. Me, Jonathan, and Charlie. The weight of this revelation hit Tom. David had been planning to create an entire family. His death had shattered multiple lives. For 3 years, Charlie remained a faithful sentinel at David's grave. Tom cared for him, arranged veterinary checkups. As visitors heard Charlie's story, the cemetery became more visited. The local newspaper wrote about Charlie's story. It was shared on social media. People began coming specifically to see Charlie. But Charlie continued to wait only for David. Tom continued recording Charlie's behaviors. The dog never completely left the cemetery. Curious about where he went at nights, Tom followed him one evening. Charlie went to his old home on Elm Street. He slept in Martha's garden. When morning came, he returned to the cemetery. He's still my dog, Martha said. But his heart is at the cemetery. During the second winter, Charlie's health concerned Tom. The dog had lost weight and seemed tired more often. Dr. Mitchell examined him again. He's not sick, but he's showing signs of chronic stress. This prolonged grief can affect a dog's physical health. He needs more than food and shelter, he needs a reason to live again. Tom tried everything. He brought toys, which Charlie ignored. He arranged for volunteers to play with Charlie, but the dog was polite yet disinterested. At the end of the second year, Dr. Peterson wanted to adopt Charlie. This dog is depressed. If he lives on my farm with other dogs, he might recover. Tom decided to try. They took Charlie to the farm. The first day, Charlie explored and played with other dogs. Tom was hopeful. But the second day, Charlie disappeared. Tom anxiously rushed to the cemetery. Charlie was there. Sitting at David's grave in his usual spot. But this time he was different. More determined, more resolute. As if saying, I'm staying here. That day Tom understood, Charlie's love and loyalty couldn't be replaced by anything. In the middle of the third year, on a Tuesday morning, Tom was making his normal rounds. Charlie was in his usual place at David's grave. Around 10:30 a.m., a taxi stopped at the cemetery gate. A man in his 30s got out, with disheveled hair and worn clothes. The man walked through the cemetery with uncertain steps. Tom noticed the man but didn't pay much attention. Then something strange happened. Charlie suddenly stood up. His ears perked up, his tail began to wag. There was excitement in his eyes that Tom hadn't seen in 3 years. When the man came near David's grave, he noticed Charlie. He stopped, looked at the dog. Then he saw the headstone, David Whitmore 1970 to 2021. Lived with love and hope. The man stumbled toward the grave. He fell to his knees, put his hand on the headstone. Dad! He whispered. Tom was shocked. David's son. Charlie had gone to the man's side, sniffing him, wagging his tail. The man petted Charlie while tears streamed down his face. You were waiting for me too, weren't you? He said to Charlie. Tom approached. Excuse me, are you David's? Jonathan. Jonathan Whitmore. I'm David's son. The man stood up, extended his hand. "You must be the cemetery caretaker. You're the one who's been taking care of Charlie. You know Charlie?" Jonathan gave a bitter smile. "I found Charlie 15 years ago." Jonathan sat by the headstone. Charlie came to his side. "When I was 17, I had a fight with my father. A big fight. He wanted me to become a worker instead of going to university. I wanted to study art. 'You're a dreamy child,' he said. 'You need to learn about real life.'" Jonathan paused, petted Charlie. "That night I ran away from home. I went to California. For 15 years, I didn't talk to him. I didn't answer his calls or reply to his letters. Pride, stupidity. David always wondered about you," Tom said. "He loved you very much." "I know. Every year on my birthday, he would write letters. He would send Christmas cards. I never replied." Jonathan's voice cracked. In his last letter, he talked about Charlie. He said, "I want to adopt a dog. Do you remember when you wanted a golden retriever? I couldn't get you one because we were poor. But now there's Charlie. I love him, and he loves me. I wish you were here too, the three of us could live together." Tom felt his heart ache. 15 years ago, Dad found Charlie at a construction site. The dog was a puppy, had lost his mother. Dad brought him home, took care of him. He sent me photos. But I was so angry, I wasn't even reading Dad's messages. Charlie grew up, Dad loved him. But pets weren't allowed in the apartment. He gave him to Martha's house. He visited Charlie every day. Jonathan stood up, looked at the cemetery. "I learned Dad died 6 months later. Linda finally found me, called me. 'Your father's funeral was 6 months ago,' she said. 'Where were you?' Tom's eyes filled with tears. "I came immediately. But it was too late. Linda told me about Charlie. 'Your father's dog is waiting at the cemetery,' she said. 'Could you try to bring him home?' Then why did 3 years pass?" Jonathan was ashamed. "I was scared. Dad died without us reconciling. I was afraid to see Charlie. Because Charlie was Dad's last love. And I didn't deserve that love." He pulled out a worn envelope. "I found this in my mailbox last week. It's the last letter he ever sent. It took 3 years to reach me because I kept moving around California." He read aloud, "My dear son, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need you to know that I've never been angry with you. You were right to follow your dreams. I was wrong to try to hold you back. I've met someone who makes me want to be a better person, a dog named Charlie. He reminds me of you when you were young. If you ever come home, I think you'd love him. We could be a family, the three of us. Until then, know that you are loved, always. Dad." The letter was dated 1 week before David's accident. Charlie, seeing Jonathan crying, went to his side. He put his head on Jonathan's lap. Jonathan hugged Charlie. "You were Dad's son," he whispered to Charlie. "When I left home, you stayed by his side. When I didn't call him, you never left him alone." Tom was deeply moved. For 3 years he had witnessed Charlie's vigil. But he hadn't fully understood what the dog was waiting for. Now he understood, Charlie wasn't just waiting for David. He was also waiting for Jonathan. Because Charlie knew that David's heart was always with his son. "What will you do now?" Tom asked. Jonathan looked at Charlie. "I'll buy the house Dad wanted. I'll take Charlie with me. And we'll visit here every day. The three of us, together." Charlie barked as if he understood. It was the happiest sound he had made in 3 years. Over the following weeks, Jonathan made arrangements. He settled his affairs in California and found a house to rent, a small place with a big yard, just as David had dreamed. Charlie was initially reluctant to leave the cemetery. He still wanted to keep his vigil. But Jonathan was patient. "Dad's not gone, Charlie," he would say. "Dad is in our hearts now. We'll visit him every day, but now we can live together like he wanted." 1 week later, Charlie agreed to come home. But every morning, he and Jonathan went to the cemetery together. He was no longer waiting. He was visiting. Tom watched Charlie's transformation. The dog seemed more alive, happier. It was as if David's spirit had found peace. The transition wasn't immediate. For the first few nights, Charlie would wake up at 3 a.m. and go to the front door, whining softly. Jonathan would find him there, confused and lost. "It's okay, boy," Jonathan would say. "This is our home now. Dad would want us to be here together." Slowly, Charlie began to adapt. Jonathan worked from home as a graphic designer, so Charlie was never alone. They established new routines: morning walks, afternoon cemetery visits, evening hours on the back porch. Dr. Mitchell was amazed by Charlie's transformation during his first checkup at the new home. "This is not the same dog I examined last year," she told Jonathan. "His stress indicators are normal. His weight is healthy. Most importantly, there's life in his eyes again." "He gave me back my purpose too," Jonathan replied. 3 months later, Jonathan had a surprise for Tom. When they went to the cemetery, Tom was amazed. A small plaque had been placed next to David's headstone. "Charlie's Corner," the plaque read. "Loyalty and love live forever." "This cemetery is Charlie's home too," Jonathan said. "He waited here for 3 years. This is his corner." Tom smiled. Charlie sat by the headstone in his old spot, but this time it was different. He was no longer waiting. He was simply being with David's memory. Inspired by his father's love and Charlie's example, Jonathan began volunteering at the local animal shelter. He started a program called Second Chances, helping connect older dogs who had lost their owners with people who needed companionship. "Dad always believed in giving people second chances," Jonathan explained. "Charlie taught me that dogs deserve them too." The program became incredibly successful. Within 6 months, over 50 dogs had found new homes. Jonathan would bring Charlie to the shelter regularly, and the older dogs seemed to know which animals needed extra attention. On the 3rd anniversary of David's death, Jonathan organized a small memorial service at the cemetery, inviting everyone who had been part of Charlie's story: Tom, Martha, Dr. Mitchell, shelter volunteers, and many cemetery visitors. As the group gathered around David's grave, Charlie did something remarkable. He walked to each person in the circle, gently touching their hands with his nose, as if thanking them for caring during the long years of waiting. Then he returned to his spot by the headstone, looked up at Jonathan, and wagged his tail, not with desperate hope, but with the contentment of a dog who had finally found his way home. Tom wiped away tears. "Charlie's not waiting anymore." "No," Martha replied, "he's living. Just like David would have wanted." As the sun set over Greenwood Cemetery that day, Tom reflected on the extraordinary journey he had witnessed. Charlie's 3-year vigil had taught everyone something profound about love, loyalty, and second chances. The dog who had refused to leave his master's grave had ultimately brought together a fractured family, healed a community, and inspired countless others to believe in the power of unwavering dedication. David's dream of a family, himself, his son, and his dog, had finally come true, just not in the way anyone could have imagined. Love, Tom realized, doesn't end with death. It transforms, persists, and sometimes finds a way to bring the lost back home. Charlie's story became legend in their small town. Years later, people would still visit David's grave and Charlie's corner, leaving flowers and sharing their own stories of loyalty and love. In the end, Charlie's vigil had been about more than waiting. It had been about keeping faith that love conquers all, even death, even time, even the greatest mistakes we make. And in keeping that faith, Charlie had worked a miracle. He had brought his family home. Sometimes the greatest acts of love are found in the longest waits. Charlie's story shows us that true loyalty is not bound by time, but by the heart. If this story touched your heart, help Charlie's loyalty and love reach even more people. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories like this one. Make sure to ring the notification bell so you never miss these heartwarming tales of devotion and second chances. Because stories like Charlie's remind us all what unconditional love truly means. Share your own loyal companion stories in the comments below. Every story matters and deserves to be heard.